This, we've known that the cost of looking after asylum seekers is big, but just how big? Well, this is fascinating because taxpayers are now being asked to cough up 1 billion quid. This is for one place, by the way, as the Home Office signs off one of the most expensive government procurement contracts ever. It's a 10-year deal. It will expand the Heathrow Immigration Removal Centre, a site that can accommodate around about 900 detainees. I did offer earlier to do it for $500 million. I reckon I could make a go of it. Let's speak to a man who knows the detail. Thomas Godfrey, reporter at The Sun, is with us. Tom, I will do it for $500 million, Thomas. I reckon I could do it as well. I reckon there are many companies that could do it for $500 million, not the comic sort of 10-figure sum. I mean, it's like an Austin Powers film, isn't it? You need to put your sort of little finger to the corner. £1 billion, please. It's extra. It's a bit like when they say, you know, oh, it costs £100,000 a week per prisoner in jail or something like that, and you go, what? I could do it for half. It's a number that's almost too high. It's to the point it's staggering to believe. But this is the provisional sum the Home Office have placed on the 10-year contract to run the Heathrow Immigration Centre. Now, that spans two sites, Colnbrook and Harmondsworth. They're right next to each other by Heathrow Airport. The reason they're at Heathrow Airport is because people go to Heathrow to be deported, although around 60% of people in the Heathrow Centre actually end up being released on immigration bail, rather making the name of a removal centre a bit of an oxymoron. Indeed. But this deal will run from 2028 to 2038, and what's really fascinating about the total overall figure is that when this tender was last put out to contract in 2017 for the current deal, it's currently being operated by Mighty, they were offering $525 million for the 10-year span. So even in real terms, the amount the contract has gone up, the taxpayer spending on these two centres, even if you account for inflation, is still 42%. Wow. So it's pretty much doubled. For one tender, it has pretty much doubled in that time. And as we say now, this is the most lucrative migrant centre contract ever offered by the Home Office, and of course it's all going to be paid for by taxpayers. So what do I get for my money, Thomas? That's what I want to know. Well, what do I get? What is my £1 billion paying for? Well, there are a number of these centres across the country, and as part of the contractual obligations, Mighty, or whatever company ends up operating it for the next 10 years, has to provide sort of healthcare services. Earlier this month, this Heathrow Centre was hiring an in-house GP for £140,000 a year, which would give asylum seekers and failed migrants and foreign criminals who are held in these removal centres awaiting their removal to their home country better access to NHS services than the vast majority of people in England living among the general public. Also maths lessons, welfare support, and it proves really that the migrant gravy train here is really far from over. You'll recall in the summer that the Heathrow Centre was offering paid full-time jobs for people who were experts in balloon craft. £1 an hour. Flower. Oh, yeah, those jobs, yes. Jobs for people to come in and teach migrants. And this includes people who've committed the most horrific crimes. These are people that have been earmarked for removal, right? They are up for removal. So these are not people who've just arrived, where you could say, well, maybe there's a terrible case. This is not a sort of processing centre. A lot of the time, people are in these centres because they're about to be removed, or because their immigration status, whether they've overstayed a visa, whether they've entered as an asylum seeker and no decision has been made, is being determined. Whether, in fact, they're actually going through the tribunal process or the court process to work out whether they can stay in this country. But these are not people who have just come off small boats. Most of the time, they're actually people waiting to go home and be deported. They're leaving this country. Maths lessons. And at the same time, we're asking taxpayers to stump up £1 billion for a whole host of things that many people will feel are not actually essential. Well, I was thinking about the maths lessons. Why would, I don't know, Marcel or Mohammed or I was trying to think of a Spanish name beginning with M. No, of course. Well, look, why would they need a maths lesson? Well, one of the obligations the Home Office say it has and tell contract providers they have to fulfil is to give some sort of support to people so that when they are deported, they can sustain themselves in their home country. It's why we get the stories of foreign criminals being given up to £3,000 now to leave Britain, to agree to be deported, and they can use that money in their home country to set themselves up, which actually, in the view of the government, avoids them trying to make the trip back to the UK and become a burden on the taxpayer again. Obviously, when it goes too far,
you end up with things like floristry and flower arranging being taught in immigration detention centres. I'm sure even in countries where asylum seekers come from, they are able to get that sort of education if they so wanted it. If they even wanted it. Many of them, I imagine, would probably not even be paying attention.
I reckon if I go down to Karachi High Street, there's probably no florist there. That's all I'm saying. There is another story, Thomas, as well here that's worth a look at as well. And this is extraordinary. The migrants granted asylum without the need for face-to-face interviews. I mean, that has blown my mind, that you wouldn't have to actually sit down with an individual. You could do it on Zoom.
Yeah, absolutely. Or you can actually just submit written evidence, and if it's strong enough, if your case is good enough, effectively, Ian, if you hit all the right notes for the Home Office decision makers, you can just be given asylum protected status in this country without actually even being probed on anything, without anyone actually, even if you have a legitimate claim, sitting you down and talking through the steps, talking through the process, trying to ask you questions. Because if you have a legitimate claim, then sure, you would get through that process, absolutely. But if you don't, if you're lying, if you're making stuff up, then surely a face-to-face interview, you would be rumbled, you would be caught out in the lie. So, I mean, it's extraordinary that the Home Office is telling people that if they can give, quote, sufficient evidence to demonstrate they qualify for refugee status, they can make a decision using written evidence in a questionnaire. I mean, this is being applied to people coming from countries with already high acceptance rates, so Eritrea, Sudan, Yemen, places where for the most part, we've not been refusing people asylum because of the regimes and the wars and the conflicts going on in those countries. But this approach, which is supposed to drive down the backlog, well, actually, for a lot of people, this will just be seen as cutting corners.
Well, of course it will. It may well drive down the backlog, but for all the wrong reasons in that respect. And, you know, one can only imagine how much of a hammering ChatGPT would be taking when it comes to filling out those application forms.
Well, you just have to wait and see, don't you? How many times has the same turn of phrase, the same little grammatical point been repeated on these applications? I mean, even insiders in the Home Office are saying this is inherently risky because if you can't sit someone down and probe them and actually sort of see into their mind as to why they want to claim asylum, then you're going to end up inevitably with cases where you've made the wrong decision, and that has a knock-on effect, very sadly, in communities where we've seen people who have been given asylum either just disregard the terms of that asylum, go back on holiday to their country of origin despite claiming it's risky, or go on to commit criminal offences. Yeah,
there was a fellow went back to Afghanistan
on holiday,
to see his mates.
On holiday for
to see the lads.
An 8-week holiday back in Afghanistan. It's the key rule of asylum, which I think everyone across the board can agree on, is that if you say a country is too dangerous and you're given protected status in Britain on that basis, we take you at your word. You cannot go back there on holiday. Surely that's something everyone can agree on.
But well, maybe some kind of, I don't know, sort of Stockholm syndrome set in with him, and he thought, I've got to get back to the war zone just to sort of taste the flavour of the country for 8 weeks and then return. Listen, Thomas, great to see you. Nice to have you with us as ever. Thomas Godfrey is reporter at The Sun, of course. Thank you to him. Back to you.